make sure to shout and let me know. And hi to everyone on TikTok Live as well. So, welcome to Design in an AI World. My name is Tracy, or Taps. My last name is actually Apps. I did not trademark it, so I am not rich. And I have been a designer since the late 1900s. And we go way back when we had to call the internet. Remember that? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I own my own company, conveniently and creatively named Tracy Apps Design. Thank you. I came up with that myself. I am based in Milwaukee. I am a senior UX and product designer, a WordPress developer since before WordPress was WordPress. I am a co-host for the Women in WP podcast. If you haven't heard of it, it's very popular. I am a drummer. If you could tell from my Gallifreyan tattoo, I am a Whovian. I am a cat mom to Mo, and I am a spare human to Bella. She just acknowledges when I exist when I feed her. So that's about me. There are going to be some links and stuff and references in the slides. I do have them already uploaded at speakerdeck.com/taps. So you don't have to worry about frantically jotting down notes. And again, I will provide this link at the end. So you'll be able to download those. Okay, first, what is AI? AI actually it seems like it's been new, because it's been everywhere in the past couple of years, but it's actually a term that was coined in the 1950s. And the general definition is theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally require human intelligence. So, things like decision-making, visual perception, speech recognition, translation between languages, right? But why, since it was in the 1950s that it was coined and started, why is it kind of all the rage now? Well, this requires basically three things. It's algorithms, data, and computer power, processing power. We just most recently now have the ability for that processing power, which is why AI is now being put into everything. So now when I'm talking about AI, one of the things that in all of my research and rabbit holes within about AI is there is this two-sided coin. One, it's like, it's so simple. It's just this thing. It's just data and lots and lots and lots of data. And then there's also I create AI and I don't even know what it does. So we're going to look at more of the general aspect of things. But when I think of AI, I know many people, we kind of think of this kind of, anyone remember this? Like a girl named like Sophia or something like that? You ever notice how creepy she looks? Right? So there's this like philosophy or this cognitive thing where basically we can see a screen that has two dots and see eyes and you're like, oh, it's so cute. And then it gets closer and closer to the human likeness. And then there's this fine line where it's like, no, it's creepy. That's called Uncanny Valley. So look that up if you're interested. So we're kind of marketed this sold, like AI is this cool, fancy new thing. But really, what it is that sexy, right? Woo! Look at this. Yes, you wanna join AI? Data centers. Everything is all basically, in the cloud. Well, I don't want to ruin anyone's belief in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, but there is no cloud. It's just other computers. So that's basically what you're talking to when you're talking about the cloud. It's a data center somewhere. So AI is now possible because of all of the processing power that we now have. Now, there is a flip side of this coin is it has become a kind of an environmental disaster. The environmental impacts for training things like ChatGPT are kind of really bad, but that's a whole other talk. So we're just know that's the thing. So let's look at kind of a little bit more. Now, this is really small. I was hoping it would be a larger screen, but we've got data science up here, which is this larger ring. And then inside that, we have artificial intelligence. And then inside that is machine learning. So these are kind of how they all relate to each other. So data science is kind of the over-encompassing of this. And this is basically the collection, preparation, and analysis of data. So then AI is this umbrella term, which is the technology for machines to understand, learn, and make quote-unquote intelligent decisions. And then machine learning is the algorithms that help machines improve learning, basically through feeding it tons and tons and tons and tons of data. To oversimplify what this is that data science is mathy math, the machine learning is a thing labeler, and artificial intelligence is lots of things, and mathy math. So there you go. Now you know what it is. Okay, that's the end. No, just kidding. So artificial intelligence is an umbrella term, and it's used interchangeably with a lot of different kind of technologies, but they're very different. So I'm going to go through some of the main ones that we hear about. This is kind of a little bit more robust with deep learning, machine learning, and etc. But some of the main ones, I'm going to pull out 4 main kind of technologies. So AGI, which is Artificial General Intelligence, or Strong AI, Narrow AI, or also known as Weak AI, Gen AI, or Generative AI, and LLMs, or Large Language Models. So AGI, this is the intention of AI performing any intellectual task, not as a specialized thing, but this is we hear oh, computers are replacing us kind of thing. That's that kind of methodology, where any intellectual task that a human can, not something specific. One thing that is encouraging, this is not possible yet. We'll talk more about this later, but this right now is not something that we can do. Narrow AI, as opposed to that general AI or strong AI, is designed for a specific task. This is the AI that we're seeing that's being introduced into our programs and applications, because they're there for a specific task. Something that has a narrow focus, some sort of automation, some sort of thing that can be integrated into the application. And that is something that we're seeing right now. Another one that's being in the news a lot is generative AI. We'll get into a little bit more later on, but generally speaking, it's creating quote-unquote new things by just mashing together a bunch of other things. And it's going to create new content based on the patterns or examples, so it's going to be similar to the things that you feed it. And then finally, LLM, large language models. This one is focused on text. So this is our ChatGPT of the world. It's fed tons and tons and tons of text data, and then used that to generate human-sounding text, like chatbots and conversation. So what is AI good at? Well, I mean, the short answer is it's good at computery things. There's a great example, a talk by Cassie Kozikroff, I think is how to pronounce her name. And again, when you can see these slides afterwards, she released a whole 6.5-hour training video on how to make friends with machine learning. It's fascinating. But she uses this analogy of, think of AI as an island of drunk people. They all have laptops, they're all connected to the internet, and they have tons of time on their hands, right? So and they're willing to do tasks for you. Okay, great, that's wonderful. I can offload this thing to this drunk island. But you don't send them instructions, you send them a bunch of examples, and then they perform those tasks and give that back to you, right? So this is not something you would want to use for something that's just a one-off task. This is something that's going to be repetitive, cumbersome, something that you have a bunch of examples so that they can use that and give you that back. But the problem is, you don't know how drunk they are. So, it could be you get the right answer. It could be you get the wrong answer. So, this is kind of how to think about AI, is don't trust it completely because you don't know how drunk it is. You don't know what is taking the examples, but one good rule of thumb is to think of the drunk island. So things like narrow AI and LLMs, AI is really good at processing lots and lots of information in a short amount of time. So things that I've used this for to help me with my workload is summarize this 45-page contract for me. Or just basically, what is this document? It's 700 pages. What is this? I can't read that fast. This will take me forever. And then any sort of tedious or repetitive task. Computers are great at just crunching numbers and doing that. So AI is the same thing because it's a computery thing. So computers do great with that. So, well, what does this mean specifically for us as designers? Well, there are some tools, and I found one, Busily.ai, which gives you like templates. Now this is very similar to what we know in WordPress with block themes. We have patterns, design patterns. It's the same thing. It's giving us a head start and say, either with a text prompt, we're just going through like a library of things that are already created and giving you some patterns to speed up your design process. Gather inspiration. I found this Reloom.io. Currently, it's advertised that the idea is that you can build a whole website from a text prompt. That's also something that's not released yet. But again, just the same as searching the web to find really cool examples, I wouldn't rely on putting a text prompt in and then just be like, here, client, here's your website. But using that as an example or inspiration to be able to take ideas from is perfectly a great way to speed up our design process and use AI in a responsible way. And another one that I do a lot, I am not a content writer, but you know how clients don't always have the content for you right away? So I've used Grammarly.com. I've become a pro member of that because that's become really valuable to be able to just I just kind of word vomit onto a page and then I say, Grammarly, make this better or make it shorter or make it more impactful. And it's able to do that because again, it's taking massive amounts of text examples and then comparing that and using that. Again, I'll still have to go in and edit it because otherwise I want it to sound like the tone that I want it to be. And again, not trusting it completely, but using it to speed up that process is always very helpful. Okay, but what is AI not good at? Well, there's a lot. Creativity, really. So when I remember seeing all of these things, especially with generative AI, people are like, oh, I can just create all of these things without the designer. And I'm like, but can you? Creating new and original ideas is not, because it's literally taking tons of examples and then mashing them together into making new things. It's also infamously bad at hands. Group photos, pets sometimes, feet, I don't know, it's like that, I don't understand hands. So if you know Photoshop, keep your Photoshop skills up because I've tried the AI tools in Photoshop, not there, no. Still, you could do better with some, just, practicing things in Photoshop. Not good at safety advice. Google is really finding this out firsthand. So you know how they have in the Google search results and they have the AI generated thing? Those have been infamously bad, like incorrect, like put glue in your cake mix, you know? Here, if you are attacked at a Tesla supercharger, your advice is, ask if you can leave. And if they say yes, thank them. Or let them know you'll be leaving at a certain amount of time. If you are still unsure, you can ask for a supervisor or call Tesla. Thank you. That's helpful. Anyway, also camping. Not good at camping. Don't use this to how to set up your campsite. Also, what is she looking at? Okay, so yeah, that's not good. All right, what else? We've got, honestly, things like empathy, dancing, not good dancing, human things, right? Nuance and ethics. Some of our most popular stories in cultures are this, like Robin Hood, right? It's like Robin Hood's the good guy, right? But he steals from the rich to feed the poor. That nuance in there, like, computers are very black and white. You just feed them a bunch of examples and they just like take that. So nuance and ethics. And for anyone that's from the Midwest, if I say, good for you, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Yep. So there is, if you haven't heard of the band Mouths of Babes, they have a song called Good For You. And I just want to read you the chorus. All right, so it says, all right, so in the South, they say, bless your heart. In New York, they flip you the bird. But in the Midwest, passive aggressive will get you the last word. Down in the Bay, they say namaste, but getting back to my roots, instead of saying, go F yourself, I say, good for you. How do you teach a computer the difference between good for you and good for you? All right. And AI can learn things, but not always well. Have you ever seen this? This is AI learning to run. It is fascinating how it runs. This was my favorite. I'm going to use that one. I don't see these tactics in the Olympics. I don't know. It's weird. This lives rent-free in my brain every time. All right, so what does this mean for us designers? Now, on the negative side of things, obviously, we're not going to want to rely solely on AI for our designs. Because remember, it's taking a bunch of data. And we'll talk about more about this, but garbage data in is garbage results out. So keeping up and keeping really sharp with our design thinking skills and problem solving and not just kind of blindly relying AI is really important. And it's become a more important part of our job, and I'll talk more about that later as well. So basically, using AI as our assistant and not our replacement. So the whole talk about, AI is going to take your jobs. No, this is going to actually make our jobs more important. So let's get into that. What is our role as designers? Is the future bright? Question mark. So it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. So with great power, back to that whole don't rely completely on AI. Think about, remember, with AI systems, it's not something like the old way of I have this problem, I'm making a formula, and then putting that through that, and then getting the result. It's, here's a bunch of data, do mathy math stuff, end results, And so what is that data set? We don't really know. Is it hurting someone? Does it include someone? Does it leave someone out? Does it harm a group of people? Especially when we're using or relying on like automated and AI tools for things that are really like life and death, healthcare, policing. This is something where it should make us uneasy, because if you think about whatever that data set is. Now think about just this example of where the police mostly are. They're not in my neighborhood. We have 2 cops that kind of wander around every so often, right? But in inner city neighborhoods, they're there a lot. What happens whenever they encounter some sort of interaction? They write a report. They have all that data. So they have a lot of data on certain neighborhoods, black and brown neighborhoods, and not so much data in other neighborhoods, very white and affluent neighborhoods. So if that data is feeding something that is policing, like that'll automatically leave out and ignore a whole group of people and harm another group of people exponentially greater. So it's very important, especially with crucial systems, with our life, that we do not let's not remove the human element. The human decision making is the final aspect of this, because it can mean life or death. I swear I didn't mean this to get really hang with me for a bit, okay? I swear. But with great power now, also generative AI is making a lot of news for good and concerning reasons. Because generative AI, in its actions, it creates a new reality. Now, this can be done in both good and bad ways, right? So, one of the ways that we got good, so our phones, they don't just take a photo anymore. They take a video clip, and then they it does math and stuff, and makes the sky bluer and the grass greener, and enhances your photo. That's all AI. It's all automated. It's not something that I have control of, and it's just kind of doing that on its own, and it's not harming it. It's just like, oh, I'm a great photographer. Look at how beautiful this is. It's just enhancing that photo. But on the other side of things, that you can actually use this to fabricate a completely new reality. And Google DeepMind team released a research paper on from their data how people intentionally misused generative AI to mislead or to cause division. The highest number, like the percentage and the reasons why they would do such, misusing generative AI. And the highest example is opinion manipulation. That's even higher than profit and scams. So this is, and if you think even deeper about this, is what's the best way to keep people engaged? Get them angry. Being engaged and enraged is going to keep you there. Now you can sell advertising, like as a way to profit as well. I did, again, with these slides, I did record that, I put that whole study in there. But this basically means that our media literacy skills are exponentially more important now. And this is something, honestly, that younger generations have an advantage of over us older folks, because oh yeah, a photo, yeah, that's true, because back in the day before this was a thing, like most of my life, you saw a photo and you're like, well, it's photo evidence. That's that. Now they can generate videos, and even from a small second, couple seconds of a voice clip, can make a video say anything you want it to. So now we can't use that. We have to look at finding other sources to make sure to back up these, whatever we see the first time, instead of seeing it and be like, oh, that's, no, we need to like, okay, take a step back. We need to now find backup sources and to be able to see that, because now this is the reality. Okay. Hang with me one more. Even greater powers. So there's TESCREAL, all right? TESCREALists versus the world. Now this is an acronym that stands for a bunch of other things that I can't really pronounce. These are all different philosophies that all kind of, they encompass a lot of different kind of human aspects of things. But the way I like to think about it and to really simplify it, remember the kind of like what we would call like the tech bro, right? This, you know, the white, cishet white guy in Silicon Valley. It's kind of the new version of that, but it's like this tech and AI utopian bro. It's one of these things where, and a lot of these tech realists are kind of either very powerful, have lots of money, or are having lots of money thrown at them to be able to make this reality. And this is what I'm talking about. This is that general, the AGI, the one that we don't have the capabilities of doing so yet. But one thing that all of these kind of philosophies do is they are a descendant of eugenics. Anyone want to shout out where they've heard that before? Yeah? No.
I'm not going to say it out loud.
Yeah. Does it make you a little uneasy? Because it should. Eugenics, this is where the Holocaust came from. This was that there's good eugenics and bad eugenics. Bad eugenics needs to be sterilized or eliminated. And good ones need to be populated the world and needs to take over. It stems from white supremacy and just everything bad, right? So that's the first wave eugenics. This is the second wave eugenics, which isn't exactly that, but it's a very similar concept. It's thinking that, well, AI can make us superhuman. And that's going to, we're going to elevate our species through technology. So this, when you hear of things like this AGI, of this utopia, this tech utopia, this should make you feel a little uneasy, because it's a really scary ideal. And right now, a lot of very rich people are throwing lots of money at this because they want this to happen. So I put a whole, again, there's some research papers. So if you want some light reading before bed, you can download the PDF for it. But not to be all doom and gloom. I really didn't set this up to be doom and gloom. But it's something to be aware of, so that we know that actually our responsibility becomes even greater. Because if we're the ones that are in the deciding table while we are creating and designing technology for the future, like, that is our greater responsibility now. So, you know, ask why. I always joke when I was teaching user experience design is designers need to be the toddler in technology. Just, well, why? Well, why that? Well, why? Just keep asking why to get to the heart of that. An old colleague of mine, he had a great quote. He says, my job is to be the dumbest guy in the room. I asked him, he's talking about, he's in a room full of the engineers and the technology deciders on this. He just asked me, explain it to me like I'm a toddler. To get down to the core why of how we're creating these things and why we're creating these things, those will be revealed when you get like 2, 3, 4 whys in. Because now people are starting to think, oh, because we want to control this. okay, well that's not a very good user-centered solution. So remembering our superpower of design thinking, where we're thinking research, user, okay, feedback, thinking of the user. This becomes exponentially more important when there's people that are throwing billions of dollars to try to make AI take over the human race. So we can be asking the questions, is this gonna help or is it gonna harm people? Because we're creating the technology that we're putting out into the world. Okay, so, all right, what can we do in a positive way? Let's look at kind of things, because again, like I said, that's not something that's possible right now, but it's a real big possibility that, you know, people are going to keep trying to make it happen, right? But right now, what can we use? Now, so things like that are, again, narrow AI or something that has a specific task, these are good ways, you know, these are the good players in the AI space. This is an example, I think out of Airbnb, is they have some AI where you can make handwritten sketches of, you know, interfaces and wireframes, and then it automatically generates the React code from that sketch. So that takes out, that's not, you know, negatively affecting the user experience, but in fact, it's allowing us to get into testing and feedback even faster. So a really positive way of doing that. How about making 7 million different package designs? Nutella did this. They had this one algorithm and they took and made 7 million, none of them repeating, different package designs for their product, for the Nutella. And it was, I think this was in Italy. And it, you know, people were excited because each one was individual and each one was unique. So everyone was posting on social media. That's a great way. Trying to make 7 million designs that don't overlap, that would be very time consuming. But with AI, that's a great positive way. It's a little extra surprise and delight. So a nice positive aspect of it. And how about even now overlap of accessibility is we can record our videos and let's auto caption them. Things like auto translation too are really prevalent, and these are ways that we can use it to expand our audience and to ensure that we are being able to reach and facilitate more people and not exclude people. Because that's really, technology should be aimed at including more people as opposed to excluding, and it has the capabilities of doing that if the right questions are being asked. All right, so recap. So AI, remember this is an umbrella term. So AI can be used in a lot of things. So I'm going to recap some of the things we talked about this on my little impact meter from fine to All right. So we got machine learning. Remember, this is that thing labeler. It's taking just a bunch of things and saying, this is a cat, this is not a cat. Okay, great. LLM is large language model. That is all text-based, so tons and tons of text data to be able to kind of mimic language and conversation. Narrow AI, this is that specialized. It's got a narrow focus. It's not setting out to replace all of the aspects of the human experience or decision making, but just one specific task that it can be focused in on. Now we're getting into our little bit like, generative AI can be used for good, can be used for evil. So this is, honestly, it's making all the kind of new things by just mashing a bunch of millions of other things together, and not good with hands. So, and AGI, this is the scary one, that general intelligence, that's really trying to make this super intelligence the end goal. So, our role as designers has changed, but I believe it has become exponentially more important. Being at the forefront of, making the technology that's going to affect people's lives is now more heavily put on us, because we do have that superpower of thinking of the user, thinking through that process. What are the positive, what are the negative outcomes? All of those things, making sure and being more confident to really stand up to these things, because our role is really very important, especially as AI becomes more prevalent in our world. That's all I got. Any questions? Yes?
So you touched a little bit on the environmental effects of AI. I'm just curious how you think about the resources that go into AI in terms of water for cooling and the human time it takes to label examples.
Yeah, one of the things about the kind of the environmental impact, it takes a lot of water, it takes a lot of energy. Just to train the ChatGPT, it was very significant impact. One thing that I could see though is, because we do have these AI systems, there was an example in a talk I was watching that there's automation tools and stuff that you can use to try to eliminate the environmental impact of these data centers. And there was a very promising study where they used AI to try to to fix the effects of AI, and it actually did. Normally, kind of doing some just regular automation things, they'd have environmentalists go through changing patterns and processes to eliminate the impact, and they usually are able to change the impact by 2%, but AI was able to change it by 40%. So it is promising that if used correctly, that we should be able to at least mitigate a chunk of that. I don't know if it's not going to be total, because I also don't think that that's a huge focus for people, even though it should be. A lot of companies, if this doesn't affect their bottom line, then why? But I think honestly, as the people who are larger in mass and are the ones that give them the money, we can make a lot of noise in millions of people to affect that change. So, things like the protests and boycotts, and those do really affect what companies do. So I think having us just kind of banding together and seeing, and focus and really forcing companies to be responsible about it, I think there is a future in that. Thank you. Anyone else?
What do you think about, I keep seeing a lot of posts on LinkedIn about AI is just stealing people's art, for the generative.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that, personally, do you think that there should be some kind of where you have to opt in to do that?
One of the things that I think, and I've heard some really, really smart people talk about, is that there needs to be better labeling of things. So, for example, when something is created with AI, and on TikTok they already have this. They have a tag that says AI generated or has something with AI in it. So I think it's, again, something that these generative AI things need to have some sort of tag with it. Now the issue also is that now there's AI tools within Photoshop. So if you open up an image and edit it in Photoshop, because it has, even if you don't use those AI tools, it will put in the metadata, generative AI or AI, So, like, I think that needs to be better. Media literacy is a part of it, but also responsibilities of the companies with the generative AI, basically having to, like, have a watermark on it, like everything that needs to have that, because, you know, we're never going to be able to, like, make it not be, like, just scrape the internet and steal artwork, right? We don't have the regulations in place for that, which is a deeper issue.
Yeah, I seen something this morning on LinkedIn as well that a lot of people are suing like the AI companies for that, taking their artwork.
Yeah. Well, I hope, because that's a part of, again, the design or the tech ethics that really need to be prevalent within the deciding factors of those companies. So if they're just like, oh, well, these are all, you know, available to us. Well, but just because you can should you? That should be us in those tables being like, what? Is that a good idea? You know, and I hope that the companies that don't think through those ethical ramifications and don't have those, like, fail-safes in place, because I don't think that that's not a really big highlight for them. They just want to get a product out instead of having that, like, oh, we need to be able to make sure we have this, and this in place before we release that. So yeah, then giving that pressure to make sure that they do.
The other thing, just a note that I heard, is that Figma was supposed to release their AI already, but it like ripped off Apple's design, so they had to like delay it.
But really, I mean, like, what is it? What was the one that Instagram did? The TikTok ripoff. They literally, like, they had the same buttons, but they just moved them to the other side. Like, we're getting to the point where everything is ripped off of each other. So, but yeah, it's hard. But again, this is where relying completely on AI things, because it's taking existing examples and then just reusing them. So this is a great time for us to stand up and be like, hey, you know what? I can do better. That's something different and not going to get you sued by Apple. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can go to lunch early. I don't know, right? Sounds good. Awesome.